if someone offered us an ad placement for like dildos, we would do it. We would I would definitely do it.
Like on those viral Twitter threads, like right below, where it's like, like a snack hitting different.
Come get your Galaxy lamp here on Rick's Mind Podcast. Or like what was that trend on Twitter? Like what was that trend on Twitter last year or the year before, where it was like someone would post some sort of like set up tweet for a huge thread, and it just was to advertise some weight loss product that everybody was doing.
How do you guys think an ad read for dildos would go? Like how do you? I'm just trying to think of how I would do it. Like, would it be
if it were like for adamandeve.com?
Yeah, like here at dragoncock.com.
At least other podcasts, they let you do whatever the fuck you want. So it's like, go ham, shove it up your ass. That's what it's for.
You just got to hit the facts. I think as long as you hit the facts,
you're right.
You can riff with the idea.
They normally send you like buzzwords or like phrases that you have to have in the ad, and then the rest is kind of just like do whatever.
I feel like how I would start it out would be like this. You guys ready? If you're concerned about health, fear not. This is the highest grade silicone for you and your girl. Jarubi's Dildos.
Ruby's Dildos?
Use the code Rick, R-I-K, to save 10%.
Yeah,
when you're using your dildo, be sure to think of the Rick's Mind Podcast.
No, they need to be made out of hemp. They would have to be hemp dildos, like because we're all about sustainability on this show. Our friends at the who are environmentalist buddies. God, what?
Micah Nelson's big on hemp.
Yeah, no, Scientist Rebellion. They would kill us. It'd have to be sustainable.
It'd have to be, yeah. I mean, maybe I don't know enough about silicone to say if it's sustainable.
Yeah, we need to follow up with them. They're trying to get back on the pod, and we have not been good at getting
whatever materials could you make out of Flex Seal? Or like, could you make a dildo out of Flex Seal? Like,
I don't know, dude. You can make a dildo out of tape and balsa wood if you wanted to.
I was gonna say, because you can buy it in the big can, right? And you could just pour it into an injection mold.
John, are you speaking
this is
from
when he's
experience?
the sound engineer.
No, I'm just like, these are the things that happen in my brain. Like, you said dildos, and I'm like, what could you make dildos? Could you do Flex Seal? Because I'm obsessed with, right? I'm obsessed with Flex Seal. I want to make things out of it. Just because, like, the dude made the fan boat out of like mesh and Flex Seal. It was like, when the fuck
pull
not?
that up? I want to look at that. So Nick, we've switched production, and we're using a new production. We get all these. Well, I don't. John has all these new tools, and we can pull things up. So for people that are listening, I'm going to be like, hey, can you pull that up? I always say, will you pull that up? But now I can look at the video, and if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you can see all the fucked up things we looked at too. So we're
right.
We're now looking at a Flex Seal. He's pulling it up right now.
We're about to. We're about to.
Yeah, dude, it's harder when he's involved. Oh, here it comes.
Boom.
Here it comes. So
dude, you're gonna get demonetized.
Should be coming.
We're not gonna get demonetized, dude. We're not even a monetization. Actually, we did have a video get.
Can you
pulled
see
down.
it? Can everybody see it?
No, we can't.
What did you have a video pulled down?
There
oh yeah, the where he just like slaps it on everything and like it doesn't.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. Okay, so we're watching.
I want to do this.
Seal
Like, it's
right
just
now,
like
folks.
I want to seal shit. It would be so much fun. But they sell it by like the paint bucket now. So it's like, I'm a plasti dip everything.
Dude, it must work. Oh, this is the one where like they make a boat out of it.
Yeah.
Well, let me see if I can find
the fan boat. Yeah, because we're just watching. Oh, there's the boat.
Yeah.
But this is the commercial. If you can find the fan boat that's made out of that'd be sick.
Oh yeah. Let me find that.
But Nick, we did have a video pulled down. We interviewed a doctor, researcher. He specializes in AIDS research. And
we got a community guideline strike.
We got a community. So we didn't.
On
we
YouTube.
just pulled the video down because we don't want to upset the lords of YouTube before we're able to even make a splash. Man, we're kind of
dude. They got you so fast, like.
Oh, they did.
Boom.
How?
There it is.
Who do they
Look
have
at that.
combing
Come
through
on.
that? Is that like AI?
It's AI.
It's got to be algorithm, yeah.
It's 100% AI. And the thing is, the dude is actually he's researching AIDS and he's researching COVID. And it's not like we were even talking about like wild shit. We were fucking speaking. He was speaking the truth. I was speaking bullshit. But like he's correcting me and educating us. And they're like, no, we can't have that. And we were just
we had
whatever.
like maybe within a couple episodes before that, we had talked to Ford Fisher from news2share.com.
Yeah.
And he has problems with it all the time because he does news reporting and he'll report on COVID protests or anything. And YouTube has in their algorithm, it scans for keywords in the text of the video, in the actual the video and the audio of the video to find certain things. Like he's had problems like when he'll report on people protesting about the election in the last election.
Yeah, and if you get 3, you're out, right?
Yeah, and he'll put this, like there's a specific statement that you have to put it, and he'll put it in the description and he'll put it in text in the video, and it'll still get tagged. Like the I forget the clip it was about like COVID. We were talking about COVID, but not like about treatments or anything, just like what the state of like, or like what the technology of the vaccines or something, and it tagged us for it, and like I had to like email. Nothing ever happened with it. Also, I like had to tweet at YouTube and be like, hey, this is a video with a world-renowned
Dr.
expert on long COVID from UCSF medical school. He's not saying any kind of misinformation. These are facts.
And did they bring it back up?
No, we had to delete it.
We don't have enough clout. We don't have enough clout to like fight the good fight. We will at some point.
This is a problem with YouTube.
Yeah, it's a giant problem.
Yeah, they have. I mean, you can once you get to like you get partnered or whatever when you hit a certain metric, then you have someone who is like your caseworker who you can contact at YouTube who can do these things. But like this kind of stuff happens to people, and the only people that can get it resolved are people who have social media clout either on YouTube or like Ford is verified on Twitter. So he was able to use that and get people to fix it. But it's a big problem with YouTube.
Wow. Yeah. Gee, I mean, yeah, COVID is one of those issues where like right from the start, I knew like I'm not going to say anything publicly about this, like one way or the other. Like I have like a story about it now, but I don't even want to say it because this will get
no. You can say it.
Don't censor yourself.
This is a fireside chat. We're not going to self-censor.
Like the stuff recently, I guess. So the other day, like browsing Twitter, I saw someone, not to pick on this person because I think they're a good person, and they were like, they were looking at like the new job numbers that came out under Biden that were good and like whatever, and they were like, well, I wonder if and they were like, I think unemployment is so low because just so many people died of COVID. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? Like 1 million
it's like
people
only a million people only a million people died in the United States.
Yeah, like it sounds harsh, but like 1 million people died of COVID. Most of those people were like at or near retirement age. And like 1 million in the US job market is less than 1%. Like
right.
That number wouldn't. So I don't know. It gets a little silly sometimes with that stuff.
Well, and you're leaving out the whole part that they've like several times over the past like decade changed the way the statistics are grabbed so that they don't count
Obama,
certain types of people.
The big change.
Yeah, they changed it during Obama after the 2008 crash to make it look better instead of if the statistics were done the same way they were prior to that, which they had been, I think, since inception, or at least for a long time, it would show that the job market never recovered from the 2008 crash, and we're still in a deficit from that.
What was the changeover? It was that people who were no longer looking for employment are not counted, right?
Yeah, after a certain period of time as well. It wasn't just like if you were looking for work and you haven't found it and you've been unemployed for X amount of time, you're no longer counted, and not even if you've just decided not to look. Because it used to be if you've decided not to look, but you're unemployed, but you're looking and you've been unemployed and looking for 3 years, you're still counted. Now it's like, I think like a year and a half. I can look that up.
Here's what I'm curious about, Nick. Did you engage this person on Twitter?
No, dude. I'm a very peaceful guy when it comes to like online conversations. Like I don't like to get into online arguments.
Me too.
So like, I don't know. What was I gonna say? Get into like a protracted argument with somebody over some COVID stuff? Nah, just let stuff. Let people breathe. I don't care.
That's what I do, man. I can't. I don't. I'm terrible. I'm not even like. I barely on Instagram. Like I need to be like. Trying to grow the show and spend every waking second on Instagram and Twitter and I just can't do it.
You can't even do it.
No, I can't do it. I'm like, I want to go outside. I want to go to the gym. It's not. I have someone that does it, but and we're ramping that up. But it's so fake. It's not real. I want to sit down and talk to someone. That's kind of how.
I only talk shit face to face. Like
me too. Yeah, I only talk. Yeah, when the consequences are going to be dire, right? Like
I only get yelled at in person. Like when I did the Ukrainian thing and like a Ukrainian guy yelled at me. I only
yeah.
So I got
when we did that on YouTube, we got a bunch of comments, a couple comments when we had Ivan Kachanovsky on. Yeah.
Oh, I listened to I listened to the thing. I listened to the entire thing.
Yeah, we got one comment that was like semi supportive, but then like a ton just around the internet, like people posting, especially on Facebook, on his Facebook, just like obviously Russian bots calling him like like a United States shill, or like American bots calling him a Russian shill. It was pretty funny.
It does. And see, that's the one thing during the interview I had to reiterate. Like, you are not pro-Russian. Like, he is definitely super anti-Russian. But like the case that he makes, in my opinion, and obviously a good place to watch this would be on YouTube, because we have it's completely transcribed, so you can read subtitles. He's subtitled on there.
Yeah, dude. I was telling Anthony, I don't know how much work went into that. Like, that's an insane amount of work.
A lot. I did a lot of work. I'm just kidding.
You think Rick did? Rick was very beautiful on camera.
For a second there,
Rick was very beautiful on camera. It took me 6 hours of transcribing to do that, not including the editing.
You're about to get your mic cut, dude. Yeah, for a second.
The look on your face, John, when I said I did a lot of, dude, it was horror and rage. Sorry for the people.
A little dead inside. I wish you could have seen me like at the end of that week.
Dude, I imagine like 6 hours listening to
just the audio.
6 hours listening to. I went to the first pro-Russian protest in Moscow before I went to
and like
Canada.
How many times, like, because I'm not super duper familiar with like the geography of Ukraine outside of like Kyiv and Crimea and the kind of like world geopolitically relevant places. Like, but when he said Zaporizhzhia, it took me like 20 minutes listening to that section over and over. I'm like, what? Oh, wait, I know that's a place.
Open.
Yeah, for real. No, you should have seen. I think I had like 30 tabs open where I was just constantly doing that and then going back to Premiere and doing this and then going back over here. It was awful. It was awful.
It was not ideal.
You owe me money for that, Rick.
Dude. It was absolutely terrible. But we had after because it was, I lived in a foreign country and am pretty used to pretty thick accents. So I was able to understand probably 90%, 94% of what he was saying. There was a few times I got tripped up and maybe had to ask a clarification question, but like the case that he makes with regard to foreign interference of a Western power, didn't say who, and towards the end of the interview, I know he's living in Canada. I was like, dude, are you I don't know if I asked him this question. I should have. I was like, are you afraid for your life? Like, are you fearful of your life? Like, the shit that you're writing about is pretty intense. You're calling out the Ukrainian government. Like, you sound, if someone's not listening to the full statement of your arguments or the full, like, your complete full statements. If we wanted to be nefarious and clip this out, you would sound very pro-Russian, but you're really telling the full story of how fucked up this situation is and how really nothing is as what we nothing is as it seems. You know,
I mean, yeah, he's talking about like people who are willing to do false flag attacks on their own people. Like he's talking about,
yeah,
like,
and I mean, like if you just let the facts play, it's like one paragraph is going to be pro-Russian, the next one's going to be pro-Ukrainian, and then back again. Like it's just so much shit. I did find
just taking in like the full context with like the breakdown of like the Maidan stuff he did.
Yeah.
Like, he's saying some shit that can get you whacked. Like he's talking about like false flag attacks, people shooting their own people to like spur international events. Like
I would be
that's
floored if he was not on a KGB hit list already.
Yeah,
or like whatever FSB or whatever.
And
they're
a
called.
quick clarification. And Nick, correct, you know a little bit more about this than I do, but just for the listeners that are popping in, Maidan was a protest, basically like the Ukrainian uprising that happened. People occupied a square, I'm going to say near the Capitol, whatever. They were protesting out in the winter. Yeah, and it was
Maidan
freezing.
Square.
And all of a sudden, he's alleging that the people that organized this said, hey, how do we get the West involved? And they're like, well, we need to see some motherfucking bodies. Okay, and the meeting went down just like that. We said we need to get some motherfucking bodies. Okay,
yeah.
Like how many? 100, 250. So there was snipers that killed 100, maybe 100.
It was about 100.
Yeah, it was 100.
I want to say it was like
about 100
it was like
people.
107, 111, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The Russian kind of shell
not the snipers
president
killed 100 people. It was 100 people died at the end of like this like 3-4 month protest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we oust like the pro-Russian president. We put a new one in. The West gets involved. Like he's saying that the sniper attacks of the protest during Maidan, that was caused by a Western power. He said that was direct Western involvement. He has communications that prove that. And I'm like, man, that's fucking heavy, because that's not something we're going to hear.
He's presenting it at his conference in
I really want to see the communication.
I think
because from my understanding, it was just like a right wing psyop, basically, like a right wing false flag operation by like parts of Ukrainian ultranationalists. But like if there was a Western
specifically Svoboda, the quote unquote we're not Nazi former Nazi party, which is like okay.
Exactly, but like if there's Western intel that they knew and there was communication, I certainly want to see it. Like those are claims
he specifically said that it was a representative from the Western governments who was speaking for all of them, and you can do the math there. There's only maybe 2 countries that could do that. It's the United States or Britain.
Yeah.
And the UK doesn't have the clout that we do.
By the way, I'm curious, and here's to him not getting got before that conference.
Yeah, right.
Oh, God, dude, that would it freaks me out, man.
I mean, when I was doing research for that show before, just to get as familiar with it as possible, I was looking him up everywhere, and there's just like, he's got his YouTube channel where he's got all of his evidence videos out there publicly for people to see. But it's just like if you search his name outside of the like academic credentials and his own things, it's all just like Russian bot claiming he's just a shill for the United States, or like other bots claiming he's a Russian shill. Like it's kind of ridiculous.
To me, that guy like embodies like the old school conspiracy theorists, and he's not. I want to make that very, very clear. But if you look like in the early 2000s, a lot of conspiracy theorists were just people that were really well read. They were professors. Yeah. They were people that followed history and were able to track trends and were able to like start an online discussion through various channels. And I was kind of deeply into that, and they would talk about things in an open and like kind of like the intellectual dark web, if you will. And they had facts, and you could just kind of explore the different narratives. And like I hate in modern day society that the word conspiracy like automatically writes someone off, because there's a like if you look at, he's the most cited person on the planet with regard to Ukrainian politics and whatnot. Like it's insane.
There was a podcast that I used to listen to.
Dude has a shit ton of gigabytes. Like he and his students or whoever did the study. like had to sit down through just like hours and hours and hours and gather hours of video footage from like Facebook and news and all that stuff to put it together. Like that is stuff that like modern day, I mean, that's stuff that like I saw conspiracy theorists that like I knew in my personal life, like sit there like and watch like 12-hour videos of the Boston bombing to see if like a flag was waving the right way after a bomb, you know, stuff like that. Like that's the stuff he was doing, but he's doing it like correctly in an academic fashion.
Yeah. And
there was
papers.
There was a podcast that I listened to. I used to listen to it like religiously. It's still going though. I don't know. I'm not a fan of it anymore. It's called No Agenda. It's with Adam Curry, who is like the guy who essentially invented podcasting. Yeah. And then John Dvorak, who is a tech journalist and writer who's been around. He was the guy in the 80s who wrote an article about how stupid the mouse was and how the mouse would never catch on as an interface device for computers. Great article.
Fucking wrong.
I lost them when Trump got elected. They were big on Trump because they bought into the whole Trump is draining the swamp. He's actually he's not the psyop. The other guy is. And they've gone down that road, unfortunately. But before, like in like the early 2000s and like even like 2010, they crushed it. Like that's how I learned about the book Family of Secrets and how I learned about all of the different like oil cartels and all these things, that they used to be that type of conspiracy person, that they're just extremely well read.
It was the Alex Jones
citing political science stuff.
Type thing.
Yeah. It's like back when conspiracies were like, interesting and not just like, oh wait, this is real and we're all gonna die,
Yeah, I do miss. I remember when the first time I found Alex Jones, I was like in college, and I was like, "What is this guy?" And I was a young man.
You were late to theAlex Jones train.
I was super late. I was maybe like,
dude, so many people
like
have
19,
the experience of like in between bong hits, the Alex.
Dude, that's 100%.
Like that's the universal experience of like a certain type of college.
Tell the globalists we're coming for them.
Wait, that was
a documentary.
Pretty good impression. What's up?
I just saw the documentary.
What is this documentary? I don't know about it.
Yeah, I haven't heard of it.
Alex's War. It was the lady. She's sort of like an alt type filmmaker, and she did like a movie about incels a few years back, and then she just made one about Alex Jones, which is like
I have to watch that.
Cinema verite, I think is the word for it, where she just like puts a camera in front of like Alex Jones and just lets him go.
I mean, like the thing is like he lost me at Sandy Hook when he started doing the shit where like he's like on trial for now and going to be like gutted for.
He's paying $4 million.
40
he's paying
million.
$4 million plus a bunch of like what the hell are the other type of damages called again? I'm drawing
punitive, I believe.
Huh? Punitive damage, something like that. Yeah, whatever.
I think that are like I think so.
I think overall he's paying like $12 million because in Texas there's like in a bunch of states there's a cap. So overall he's paying like 12 million or something like that.
But like he's going to be $49 million.
Damn, did you just pull that up?
Yeah. AP. So it's real. More than $49 million. It was like they the group of families from the Sandy Hook school shooting sued for $150 million.
Yeah,
and they're getting 49.
So the jury really didn't want him doing it again. Basically.
No, and like I used to enjoy listening to him, and like I didn't take him at his word for everything, but like he was obviously fucking insane. But there was a lot of truth that was
got a lot of shit right.
Right, weaved into that, and that is what makes him so dangerous at points. And I was convinced that he wasn't who he was, that he was like a prolific performance artist. Like he was like Andy Kaufman, doing this shit to convince people of this stuff. But he got enough of it right. But I think he's just a dude who was like crazy conspiracy dude, and then he just got drunk at his own sauce.
Yeah, I think
he's all the alcohol that he drinks as well.
Yeah, because he's a raging alcoholic. And the one thing I will say this, like he did get a lot of stuff right, and they just clipped his nuts. He went to
the thing is he would still probably be doing exactly the same stuff and still getting, like, he was good for probably like a third of what he said was straight up true. But after Sandy Hook, like, he went way too fucking far when he started, like, it's one thing to do the whole, like, what do they call it, crisis actor thing and claim that it's that, but then to literally go harass these families of people who have lost children in this thing and continue to do it. That was where it just went way too far, that I was just like, I can't even, like, listen to this dude anymore.
And I don't know when I stopped listening to him. I probably went, well, I started listening to him again during the whole Ukraine invasion. I was like, whoa, I guess I was wrong here.
I'm back on the InfoWars train.
No, because, John, I pulled you back into that world, too.
You did, yeah, you did.
Yeah, I did. Because there was a bunch of things going on around about him, like online, where it's like he kind of predicted this war. And I was like, gosh, I got to check him out again. Let me dive into this.
I mean, if we want to get conspiracy, he was probably just a CIA psyop, or he was they put him on a train and got him to say crazy shit. Like, they were probably feeding the shit about, like, growing, what was that, genetically enhanced pigs that can weave spider armor and, like, pig stomachs and shit like that.
Sounds cool. I wish that was true.
Honestly, yeah.
I was never an Alex Jones guy, because I'm of Liv pedigree. I was whole on, like, very, very liberal when I was, like, 14, 15, and 16, 17, when we were, like, supposed to get into conspiracy theories. I was, like, working with the Miami Dems and stuff. So
yeah, see, I got on him because I was big lib too, and it was because he was so on the anti-Iraq war stuff.
Yeah, but
that
like,
was
you
when
guys
I,
were
like, around like 2003.
Me. Yeah, you guys were libs before me. That's the thing, By the time I became a lib, like, that sort of distrust of authority or whatever had sort of exited the Democratic Party to some extent. So, like, that's not the environment I grew up in. I'm, like, a very late arrival to all this stuff.
Let me welcome you in. Do you want to know? I mean, you got to start thinking, because listen,
let's throw cred down though. When are we talking? Like, I'm reading the book Crossing the Rubicon when it came out in 2004 and ranting about George Bush, wanting to invade Iraq and, high school lunch in 2003.
I want you to pull something up, because this is why I don't ever trust. I'm super anti-government. I am still pretty much a diehard conspiracy theorist. Like, I'm like, for the most part, I'm a step below, like, tinfoil hat guy. But look up the Church Committee. I think that this was
this is what got me into conspiracy theories.
Okay, there you go. Nice. Oh, dude, these guys found out. A bunch of senators found out that the CIA and all these CIA,
NSA, FBI,
they were all
IRS.
doing these fucked up things. This goes into, like, dosing people with LSD and making them insane. Looking at Let me see if I can.
I got it right here. You're crushing it.
Yeah. So it just, like, they found out that these governmental agencies had no oversight and were just doing mass experiments on the public, young college students, and they're like, this is unacceptable.
Yeah, that's what that book Chaos was about. The one that came out about Charles Manson a little bit ago.
Oh, that's right. That's about Charles Manson and him.
He was involved with the CIA, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was involved with the CIA because they just fried his brain and studied him.
It doesn't go as far as to say that, but it strongly implies...
He was basically like a CIA washout, wasn't he?
Yeah, it strongly implies that there is... It does it in two ways. Like, one, it implies that there's the level of, like, prosecutorial misconduct and, like, times, like, his parole agent let him go and close relationships with his parole agent and stuff like that. It uses that to say, well, this guy was getting different treatment. Like, clearly, absolutely. Like, his ranch wasn't getting raided for some reason. He was absolutely getting different treatment. And why is that? And that's when it ties him back, incidentally, with the MK Ultra projects, possibly when he was in jail. The guy at the Haight-Ashbury clinic, the guy he used to go to get basically his girls treated for STDs, every once in a while. Like, that guy was a very close confidant and in a partnership with the head of, like, the whole dosing people with acid MK Ultra project thing. So it establishes enough facts that sort of by a preponderance of evidence you can say, okay, what we have been told so far about Manson, like the definitive book written by the Manson prosecutor, is probably not true.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then
it makes sense. You just have to have a basic cursory understanding of government.
And
the
spent
American,
20
just the American
fucking years
government
doing research. Like, it was supposed to be, like, he started out, like, it was supposed to be, like, a little article he was writing for, like, a Manson anniversary thing. Then it turned into a book. And it takes this guy, like, 20 years to piece this shit together. Like,
20 years to piece it together. Yeah, because that's right. They found out about MK Ultra, the church commission, our committee, but like then you take it a step further and look at what they did to the Tuskegee Airmen, giving them syphilis and not treating them. Like, this is our government did that.
That
to
was too.
Veterans.
It wasn't just the airmen; it was the populace of Tuskegee, Alabama, that they gave syphilis. Yeah, it was just the people too.
Or didn't they? I don't know. They gave. let's say they contracted it and they didn't treat them. They just wanted to see. Yeah, they didn't treat them.
Let me look. I want to say there was another situation.
The diagnosis was and let it go on. It didn't lie.
And I think they gave them they gave them placebo vaccines as well. Yeah.
Our government did that, right? So that's insane. So like and so I look at what's happening now because I'm kind of getting obsessed with it again, and John and I have kind of had some conversations. I look at the interests that we have. It's like history is repeating itself. I'm bringing this to aliens.
Well, I was going to say, before we go, the one government conspiracy, or like, quote unquote conspiracy, that it's really not a conspiracy. It's just literally how it's gone. No one has ever gotten big on the, like, does anybody wonder why the Bush family has been so involved in everything for the past 100 years?
The Bush family features into, like, the JFK conspiracy at times.
I mean, let's set aside that, the grandfather of, the father and grandfather of two American presidents was essentially a Nazi war criminal who had all of his assets frozen and seized during the war and wanted to, install a fascist dictatorship in the United States.
Was he part of the business plot? The FDR business plot thing?
He was one of the main people in the business plot, Prescott Bush. George H.W. Bush was heavily involved in oil in the Caribbean area and in Texas.
Zapata Petroleum, the CIA shell company he ran. Yeah,
and he was also a very high up in the CIA. I think he was like second in command at the CIA, and then he went into politics, and suddenly JFK gets killed in very mysterious circumstances, and they install somebody who was a Bush crony in Nixon after.
The timeline is that the day before being assigned CIA head, I think under Ford. He had lifelong denied he ever was involved with the agency, right? Like, that was, it sort of shocked a lot of people because who's this guy they're putting in to clean up, quote unquote, the CIA? And the thing is that the day after JFK is assassinated, the CIA has on the records that they receive a call from a George Bush. So people find this and they're like, what the hell? Like, who is this George Bush? And eventually the CIA gets back to them and says, this George Bush, by the way, the information that was being reported to the CIA is this George Bush called the CIA and said to them that he had heard Texas oilmen and business people talk about assassinating JFK in the weeks prior. So it sounds like he's covering his own ass in a way. And then the CIA responds and they're like, okay, we have no filed personnel for any George Bush that's ever worked at the agency. And then they respond again, I think, and they're like, okay, no, wait, we do, but he's a janitor. So they track down the janitor, and of course, like, what the fuck? Why would a janitor know anything about this?
Just like unknown or unnamed members of my family who have worked for unnamed alphabet agencies have always worked for the State Department.
He's also, that was one of the questions I think they asked him, like, on live television. He's also, like, the one guy who doesn't remember where he was when the president was assassinated, which I think is very funny.
And then just how very uncanny it is that outside of that, after JFK is assassinated, you have Johnson, he just takes over, and then they get Nixon in, and Nixon's he was such a fucking idiot, he couldn't even hide how corrupt they were, that they likely did him up for Watergate, and then Carter was an aberration, and then you have Reagan, and who's right there with that? Like, Reagan was the Bush family, and then you have him, you have Bush, you have Clinton, who is essentially like the Clintons are kind of like an offshoot of the Bush, like, crime syndicate, if you will. And then you have you have W and all the shit he did. They're still involved in it.
At some point, when a man is feeling very low in his life, I think he goes to the store, he picks up a bottle of vodka, and he starts watching JFK conspiracy theory videos. I think that's like a universal experience. That's how I got into it.
I mean, it's amazing how, like, all of this shit, like, the trajectory of the United States.
That's how I got into it. Like, at 7 a.m. drunk, watching the Oliver Stone movie, being like, can you believe this shit?
Oh,
yeah. Fucking 2018. Can you believe this shit? Fucking 7 a.m. texting people.
They fucking killed my boy.
If you want a really, really juicy conspiracy theory, listen to a podcast called the MLK Files. It breaks down the assassination of MLK.
That's not even a conspiracy. That's just that happened.
Dude, the
FBI sent letters to him to convince him to kill himself.
What is the theory that the MLK Files has? Because like last time, I never looked into it, but like last I knew of it, I thought like the governor whacked him.
No, and I'm not going to give it away, but basically, and who killed MLK?
It was the FBI. We know it was the FBI.
No,
it was probably the FBI.
I can't think of the guy's name. Hold on. James Earl Ray.
It was Elijah
is
Muhammad.
That's the guy that allegedly shot Martin Luther King.
James Earl Ray.
Not think so. I think it was the CIA. For sure, that had him whacked. Or no. The FBI. Excuse me. It's the FBI. Thank you, John. You're reminding me. The FBI, like J. Edgar Hoover, hated this man, and like when
Hoover was fucking crazy.
Hoover was. He's also gay too. Like,
yeah, well, I mean, that's the part that's not the worst part. Like,
no. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's a thing.
Agency started by devious gays.
Yeah, right. The cross-dressing trans people.
No. Allegedly, he was a cross-dresser too.
Not allegedly. He was
for sure. Okay,
yeah. So was Sumner Wells.
I just discovered this.
Also gay. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But what I was saying is so this guy Hoover is constantly watching MLK. He's sending him letters, and I think they allegedly paid 2 people to take this guy out. I'm butchering this. It's been a long time since I've heard this podcast. It's an investigative journalistic podcast, but
I'm listening to this the second we get out of this. By the way,
yeah,
you have to.
I'm on the MLK conspiracy train now.
Yeah, the MLK. There's a lot of questions there. The 60s and 70s were a wild time in American.
Yeah, I had to
politics.
When you listen to the Jay episode, you'll get to hear it, but it has like a 30-minute introduction about like the 60s and 70s, mainly about what Jay meant to the radicals of that time, like people like the Weather Underground, the Black Panther movement, and all that. And I had to read a shit ton for that. And I was, holy shit, dude! I'm like in the 60s, 70s conspiracy hole, particularly deep right now. So I'm listening.
My thing with all the MLK stuff, that what kind of put me on the train too, because before I didn't really think of it. I knew he was assassinated, but I was also a child, right? I didn't think much of it, and then once I learned that, a lot of the quotes, all the quotes that everybody knows about MLK and everybody likes to use are all from one very specific period in his life, and no one ever talks about after, towards the end of the later part of the civil rights movement, when he just became so despondent with the fact that nothing was being done, no real change was happening, and he just went he was just full socialist, borderline communist.
Well, in 67,
he
he gets booed off the stage in Chicago by his own people. Because at that point the movement was Black Power, and MLK was not down with the Black Power thing.
No.
So he's like trying to preach like our white brothers will like eventually come to like see us as equals, blah blah blah. He's talking about that. He gets actively booed. So like at the end of his life, the movement is like actively in the racial sense, in the economic sense, I think you're right. In the racial sense, the movement is already running away from him by the end of his life. So I think it's interesting.
But I mean, they never talk
about.
Yeah, and no one ever talks about how his speech and his statements were far more radical than what he was saying, like when he was giving his speech on like the Lincoln Memorial and all in that period.
But his speeches got more radical, and when the government decided to whack him, it was essentially when he started speaking against the war. Like that, like when he started speaking against the war, and people started coming to him and being like, "Hey, this is what we're doing in Vietnam. Like it's not good." That's when he started to, I feel like, gain a little bit more momentum. And I didn't realize this, and they kind of cover this on the podcast, that this dude, they start looking at him as a potential presidential candidate. And that's when, like, his fate was pretty sealed, because he was able to oh my God, can you imagine?
That's like a super interesting counterfactual. Like, what would what would his legacy be if they didn't get him?
Yeah. Yeah. If he made, because he starts speaking out against the war, getting support, right? You starting to unite people, starting to talk about social problems, starts to kind of transcend race, right? And then they fucking kill him.
But
right?
at the same time, at the end of the decade, he's operating in a period where the movement no longer wants to transcend race. Like the IT movement at the end of the decade that radicalizes into a core, particularly in the North, right? Like you said, nothing was changing, nothing was being done. So when the civil rights movement leaves the South, where the signs of oppression are a lot more visible and have TV cameras, and goes north, where it's like things like housing, like in Cicero, when a middle-class family tried to move in, and like the entire town came and burned their townhouse, like stuff
or the
like
Tulsa,
that.
or the race riots in Tulsa too.
Yeah.
Even though that was earlier, but
that
same
was
kind
in
of
the
thing.
20s.
Yeah. So
the other
Wall Street.
The other aspect of it too that's interesting is the FBI, because my grandfather was an FBI agent for his entire life. He retired after 30 years, but he was still doing work for them up to almost the day he died. There was a kind of internal schism in the FBI. You had the one part of the FBI that my grandfather was in, that it was World War II veterans and people that had trained to fight wars and were actively doing counter-espionage against the Russians, both domestically and in foreign ways. And then you have the other side of the FBI that is your typical,
your
slave
drunk
patrol
Irish
cop.
cops.
Yeah. And that is the facet where Hoover came from, and that's the facet that ended up driving the FBI forward from then too. They don't really do any more domestic surveillance anymore. It's all they do sometimes. It's really only in support of bigger ops with other agencies. Plus now they have the NSA that can just turn on the microphone on your phone and listen to every room in the country, like Batman,
Oh, don't even get me started. You don't really ever know if your phone is shut off. You could turn your phone and they can access that and actually turn it on. That's something the NSA has brought up.
Yeah, and the NSA, this has been known before Snowden. The NSA has a history of working with the one specific example I know a lot about is when they worked with the RCMP, the Royal Mounted Canadian Police, to build their data harvesting infrastructure in Canada for domestic surveillance. And the NSA, they've done this with a lot of countries, and they did this with Germany. They did this with the UK, I believe, after OSI was folded after World War II. They built back doors into everyone's system so that they could access anything all over the world. And the Canadians found out about it and were able to close it. And I think that was in in maybe the early 2000s or late 90s. it's fucked up. I mean, America was a mistake. I am fully on that train now.
Wait, time out. We're getting
I'm
off.
pro-America. Don't talk shit on my America.
I'm super pro-America. How fucking dare you, John? Get out. No.
I'm still pro-American.
I'm super pro-American too.
I'm pro-idea of America.
We're way off in the weeds, John. You let us.
That's what I do. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here.
You're Nick. I want to get back to the '60s and '70s. I also want to bring up Fred.
Aliens.
I want to bring up Fred Hampton too. Have you looked into that one?
Yeah,
you know about Fred Hampton.
I think it's well
Fred
known.
Hampton.
I think that's the clearest case of them clearly whacking someone.
And for the listeners that don't know, Fred Hampton was an activist, I believe, in Chicago, Illinois, in the '60s. I think he was killed in '69, and he was definitely murdered by the FBI. Like that you can Google that.
Yeah, like they
one.
gave drugs to put in his drink to knock him out.
Yeah,
so he would
December 4,
and then
69.
they went into his house. A bunch of agents did and fucking murdered him. Like it was a hit by the FBI. And he was like 21 years old or something like that. Just this crazy,
no, he was
amazing.
A little older, I think.
Was he a little older?
He had been in jail for a few years now.
No, he's 21, dude.
Dude, Fred Hampton was
21. I'm sure. I'll bet you dinner.
Nah, dude, no, I'm not taking that bet. I'm
Hold
not
on,
sure.
I can settle this.
Because he was in jail for like 3 years.
Yeah, he died age 21.
Holy shit,
December
Fred
4,
Hampton's a lot
1969.
younger than I thought. My God, impressive guy.
Wow. The shit that because it's hard to believe because the shit that he accomplished in his short time on the planet organizing. I mean, it's interesting because this is when a lot of the gangs that we see now stem from the Black Panther. I may be a little bit over my skis here.
No,
Black Panthers
you're
were
like
involved in that.
so definitely at a certain point, like the movement. Like, the Black Panthers are just, like, the beginning of the movement, right? Eventually, like, the Black Panthers, through their own internal problems, and, you know, the FBI does set them up to fail in many ways, and the organization itself has its problems, does splinter off into, like, more and more violent stuff. Like, there's the stuff with the Soledad brothers, right? Where they're in jail, and then they hold up a judge and murder a judge with weapons smuggled in. That Angela Davis bought them. There's the Senegalese Liberation Army, which I forget the daughter of who they take hostage. The daughter of which famous magnate do they take hostage?
Dog. That's we're way over my skis.
I am looking right now.
Basically, they splinter off into like a bunch of terrorist groups, and like these people like have like a massive shootout with police out of a house, and then they kidnap the daughter of It wasn't Hilton, was it? No. Senegalese Liberation Army.
What year was this specific one?
Early
Because they're
70s.
still operating.
It's like early 70s.
Okay. I'm working on it. Are we sure they were the Senegalese Liberation Movement? Is that what they're
What the fuck
called?
was their name?
Patty Hearst.
Oh,
Patty
yeah.
Hearst, there we go.
Yeah, but
Patty
she was a
Hearst.
part of it. She was in on
Yeah,
it.
they kidnapped
she in on
her.
it?
They kidnapped her.
That's how they figured out. They found her is actively robbing a bank with them on the security cam footage.
Yeah, they kidnapped her according to like the memoirs or like whatever. First, they started off like coercing her into sex, more or less raping her. Then she started going along with their heists, and it all ends in like a big brutal shootout in like a neighborhood, I think California. So like the movement, and there's also here's another one. I think the Young Lords in New York, which are a Latino gang, they take over the Bronx Hospital. So the Bronx Hospital was condemned. It had been condemned since the 1950s. It wasn't fit for use, and it attended the entire South Bronx. So here's like this one shitty hospital. It has one bed per like 30,000. One bed per 3,333 people out of the entire South Bronx in a condemned building that has lead poisoning, that has no AC, even in the surgery units. So at one point during the early 70s, the Young Lords take over like the psych ward department. They just like come in, they strong arm the city with guns. They like go to like the offices in the cities where they actually like would like prescribe drugs and stuff. And in part, the Young Lords turn the psych ward of the hospital into their own drug operation. So
What?
Yeah, no, it's
What?
an insane thing. They fucking took over a psych ward in a hospital, right? In like a shitty condemned hospital, and nobody wanted to give funding to, despite the fact that it attends an entire borough in New York City. So
I mean, like
God.
even like Malcolm X was assassinated, and they said it was
and it was
people
an
from
inside
some
job.
Nation of Islam. Yeah,
Nation of
but
Islam
like
whacked them.
And
Yeah.
then
yeah, I mean,
think
but like
I'm
also
pretty
that
sure
could
that they
easily be
did.
done by a government, agency.
I think that they did because Nick, do not lose where you're at in your story. But I do want to. I think that they did because when Malcolm went to the Middle East, and basically like this is how he was like a dignitary, right? And then the United States government actually had to issue papers like. Any deal that he cuts with the Arab world, we are not honoring. Like he was treated like royalty over there. When he saw what Islam was about and then the version that the nation was teaching, he realized he'd been lied to. And that's when you see the more peaceful Islam. So I think that there's definitely a motive for them to take him out. But Nick, back to the Young Lords thing, because I did not know this.
Yeah, that's an insane thing. They're just like a bunch of like these little micro stories that are lost about how crazy the 60s were. Like at one point there were like 100 or over 100 bombings of government buildings in a year done by groups like the Weather Underground, right? Like the student movement that eventually came out of the SDS. And, they would openly like when the Manson murders were announced, I think Kathy Bodin maybe, who was one of the leaders at that point, like openly was saying like, good, I'm glad they stabbed those pigs, like great. And all of these people end up they blew themselves up in a Greenwich house. One of them started getting really into bomb making, and they were going to deliver a bomb to an army dance in Jersey. And by mistake, they blew themselves up in a Greenwich house, actually next to the house where Dustin Hoffman lived, interestingly enough. He had a hole in his wall, which is like a little known detail. But yeah, like they bombed like a shit ton of government buildings. They never really killed anybody, but maybe like one person, but like or like three people, but that's disputed. It's another one where there's the bank robbery with also SDS members driving, and I forget what of the radical groups. They try to do a bank robbery. They get into a shootout with. They kill I think one or two security guards, and then they're caught. And the interesting thing is that, most of the black radicals are either killed or go to jail for a long time, but most of the white radicals that come out of this movement end up being professors. One of them is like the head of like the Columbia Sociology Department. Obama actually held his first ever fundraiser while he was running for office at the home of David Ayers. And his wife,
that was. I remember when that was a big thing when he was running for president.
Yeah,
how he's friends with him.
he was an SDS. He was one of like the Weather Underground heads. He was like one of those like we're waging war in the United States, like FBI's most wanted list type people. So like it's interesting that all those just the fucking 60s and early 70s are insane. The amount of violence
people
that was
fucking
going
claim
on
that crime is out of control now, and it's like there were literally like open revolts happening 45, 50 years ago.
Pretty much, yeah. Like just like active guerrilla groups running around, more or less. And then it's interesting to see, like 30 years later, they're like sociology professors and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've got an idea. For a show now. After you wrap up the history of the Cuban Revolution podcast, I think we should go in on this.
On the 60s?
We do the 60s. What we start, this is
like the radical movements of the 60s.
We do the radical movements of the 60s, and we do it year by year, and we do the highlights of the year. And I don't know how often, but we could do it like Dan Carlin style. We could do a hybrid of. We could do it. There's two ways. We could do like a massive push where
I think
like
thematic is probably easier and better and like more listenable too. Yeah.
So no like just like boom 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 like rapid fire.
Yeah, I mean Dan Carlin is
Dan
thematic,
Carlin's
right?
Podcasts. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I don't think he like tells
that's,
like the chronological history. He has like a lot of diatribes.
No.
The
I
chronological
say
history thing is like what I do, and that fucking sucks to listen to sometimes. If I'm honest.
No, it's not. But we do. Yeah, kind of. We figure out how to divide up the research and cover different portions. John's would produce, and we have, the year's 1960, a young. I don't know. I can give and that's what we do. We do a little history on the radical movements. You know, we could get it. There's so much there. MK Ultra. We could do a show. Then we could do something like this where we just compare and contrast, and we try and figure out the motives and ask the questions, right?
And you could easily produce this as like a YouTube docu-series as well with footage. Sorry.
The San Francisco AG who just got ousted in the recall, Cesar Bodin, was the son of Kathy Bodin, one of these radicals, and also raised by David Ayers and Bernadine Dorn, the people I was just talking about being on like the FBI's most wanted list and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that'd be
so
crazy.
Like the progressive prosecutor of San Francisco has like a direct familial tie to.
During what year was it that they had the Democratic National Convention in Chicago where the
68
Weather Underground? Yeah, 68. In 68, my mom was in college. I think in Chicago, and she wasn't there to like protest. She was just around there. It was when they were trying to get a pig elected as Democratic candidate, and they were handing out like hand painted buttons that said vote pig, and my mom has one of them, and she collects like political buttons and stuff. But she was like there when that happened before the riots and everything. Like people used to riot about shit. Like I'm tired of like all these people. Like I really appreciate like modern leftists that are pro-gun and pro like community safety and everything. That's like they're legit, and all the people are just we need to vote. These past few years, vote harder, guys. Vote harder. You know,
we had some riots these past few years. We had BLM riots and the January 6th
when they burned down the police station, that was great. I loved that. That was really special.
I don't know. It's all crazy. I do want to ask you one question. What do you think about the former Japanese Prime Minister?
Shinzo
Abe.
Abe.
Yeah.
Abe. What does I saw? I'm sick. I watched the video, obviously.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What?
That shotgun that guy made was awesome.
What political ramifications does it have? I don't know anything about it. I didn't look into it.
So I know a little bit about. I don't know much about the guy who killed him, but I know a little bit about Shinzo Abe. That Shinzo Abe is essentially an authoritarian.
100%.
He was like I prior to learning all of this, I remember like he was very big in geopolitics with George W. Bush and trying to push all of our foreign wars in that period. He also he represented a movement in Japan that is not very well liked anymore. There's a certain there were certain symbols and things that he would always point to and have. And he is that related back to the kamikaze samurai class of the of World War II and the Imperial Japan.
Bushido.
The Bushido, yes, thank you.
Bushido. Yeah, I'm familiar with this.
He also was very instrumental in never ever publicly acknowledging the crimes that Japan committed in Korea and in China during their occupations prior to and during World War II. He there was an incident where he was doing some glad handing PR thing in a fighter jet, and the fighter jet was done up with I was talking about certain symbols. There's a certain number numerical thing that relates back to the Bushido thing that he kept kind of cheekily pointing to and being oh, that's not it, or is it? I don't know. You know.
So what I know about Shinzo Abe is that he he was no longer the prime minister. He was the ex-prime minister.
Mm-hmm. No,
stepped down due to health issues.
I think he was running though.
Shinzo Abe
running?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. No, he was. I think
he was campaigning on behalf of the Liberal Democrats, which is the Big Tent conservative party of Japan that has pretty much been continuously in power since the 1950s. I don't know what political ramifications for Abe getting killed, but why Abe was, I think, an important figure in Japanese history was, for American history, there was the whole closeness with George Bush that was just brought up. Of course Japan's gonna be lockstep with the United States. We
rebuilt them. we
built them literally from the ground up. But it was after Japan's disgusting collapse of like their asset bubble in the 90s, and the 90s is called like the lost decade, which is like a period of no growth. Abe was known for Abenomics, which is essentially like more government spending, easy money. So like he was basically known for trying to get like the economy running hot again by both printing money and government spending, and also by sending women into the workforce. Japanese women didn't really work before in huge numbers before Abe, so it was sort of like a mobilization of like the entire Japanese economy. Like, hey guys, we got to get out of this fucking hole.
The number thing that I was talking about, it was in 2013. He was posing in a Kawasaki T4, which is like a Japanese fighter jet, with that on it. It had the number 731, which was a unit in the a unit in the Japanese Imperial Army during World War II. That was like essentially the Totenkopf unit that they went and did a bunch of biological and chemical warfare in Korea and China.
Yeah, they were like the Joseph Mengele of
and they were responsible
Japan.
too for a lot of the they called them
like
comfort
inject
women
horse
that were
pee
just
inside people. Stuff like that.
Yeah, and they did a lot of the sex trade, human trafficking stuff of women from Korea being sent to Japan to act as just courtesans for the Japanese Bushido class.
Yeah, I got personally, I got nothing against Shinzo Abe.
I don't know. I just know I look at it in terms of I wasn't aware of all of that stuff. I was aware of some of it, but I look at it in terms of this guy was really big on the remilitarization of Japan. He spent so much defense money. He increased defense money or defense spending, excuse me, by an exorbitant amount, and he put a lot of pressure on the Chinese. I mean, essentially, the Japanese have fucking aircraft carriers now. They're helicopter carriers, quotes, right? But they're aircraft. They could be modified to be aircraft carriers in 5 minutes. And him being assassinated, I'm super curious. John, can you pull up and see what the motive was behind the dude that killed him?
Yeah.
And I don't know. Like, I'm wondering where we're at with that now.
It was some cult thing. It's that Abe is part of some church who
the Unification Church.
Yeah, the Unification Church, who is. It's a shady religious anti-communist movement.
It's kind of like the Moonies a little bit.
Yeah, kind of like that. And the guy's mom had really bought into it, and I think given up a lot of money to the Unification Church. So the guy...
But hey, good on him for the effort he put into building that shotgun.
Yeah, so the guy in his garage, tinkered a weird, fucking TF2 gun.
It was like an electronic shotgun. It was awesome.
I know. It's super interesting because then that guy. I mean, I saw the article. It's just like, oh my god, it was a ghost gun, and I was like, dude, that cat's out of the fucking bag.
Yeah,
there's no putting the lid back. And
it was like a toaster with barrels.
Yeah,
I know, dude.
I mean, I could get a piece of pipe and
a
little firing pin. And
that's it. But that was like the one gun death of the year.
Yeah.
It's like the one guy that died. He was the prime minister.
Yeah. No, but I mean, of the things I know about him, he like you said, he was really instrumental in rearming Japan, and he, by all accounts, seems to be a big fan of Imperial Japan. The Imperial expansion.
Dude, if I were Japan, I'd be trying to rearm too, man. I don't.
Me too.
I don't like the Chinese.
Well, yeah,
me too.
Yeah.
I would be trying to rearm. And listen, I'm not a fan of Imperial Japan, right? Because I'm an American,
dude,
and that was a
for the little
war.
time Imperial Japan was on top.
They
had,
dude.
You know, when you talk about greatest players of all time, in sports, you can look at it long.
Imperial Japan is
where
the
it's
GOAT.
this guy's entire 20-year career is awesome. Or you can look at it by season, this guy just his batting average was fucking insane in this season. Imperial Japan is that type of player that just had in the one season they played, they fuck things up. They're
I mean, you have to think it is that whole scope is very Japanese. They do they're a completely closed country for centuries, for millennia. The Dutch show up to trade, and they're like, oh, what is this imperialism thing? Okay,
oh, this sounds
one
good.
second. let's do it. And then they do it better than almost any country in the world ever has.
Dude, for the amount of time they were on top, the fucked up shit they managed to do in that amount of time is impressive. It's like one of the great time scumbags. I was
when my grandma died last summer, and because she was buried at Arlington, we finally had her funeral in April. And we were there going through tons of photos, and I was trying to archive them and stuff. I was looking through several boxes of photos that my grandpa took on at the Battle of Sugarloaf Hill and in Iwo Jima and in Guadalcanal and all this shit, and just the fucked up shit in there is insane. And not even counting the shit that Japan did in Korea for 40 years they occupied Korea.
Everything that they did in China, which is just it's just a laundry list of horror and horror. Contests of who could decapitate the most people in between fucking officers.
Giving the Han Chinese a run for their money in genocide.
The shit they did in Korea, the shit they did to their own people, just the internal mindfuckery indoctrination they had with their own people.
They fucked with the people in Okinawa too, because they don't consider Okinawa. They never considered the natives of Okinawa truly Japanese, because they were from
the Okinawans.
Okinawans from a totally different culture.
For the little time they were on top, dude, all-time numbers.
And dude, I love that you think about it like that, because I think about it very much the same way, and it's hard for me, John, and I see where you're coming from, but it's hard for me if I'm an Ube or I'm a Japanese person. There's me, dog.
You're just
love
Mr. Nationalist.
Conquers.
Every nation gets to deny their own genocide, right?
That's all I'm trying to say. It's they didn't do anything different. He's just
no, totally. I look at it the same. I try to look at it the same way, just devoid of any reality.
The Turks deny the Armenians. The British deny that they did anything funky in India, which they 100% caused a famine in World War II.
Right.
The Russians play footsies with the Ukraine shit they done.
Stalin was great. Have you heard that? Stalin didn't do a thing wrong.
Yeah,
Stalin totally didn't forcibly deport hundreds of thousands of people from all over Eastern Europe.
Yeah, you gotta. No. Yeah, to get a nation to admit their genocide, you really have to fuck them up.
Hey, the United States is still going strong on at least one of theirs. So
Which one?
The Native Americans.
Oh,
we're still they're still killing us.
Are we going after them? Are we?
It's been a 100+ year cultural genocide, and then that Supreme Court case that came out in the end of the last round that removed judicial sovereignty for any reservation that gave the Feds supremacy.
We have a guest actually coming up that has been looking into the mass graves that they found at some of the boarding houses coming
at the Indian schools.
Yeah, so that's going to be a heavy one. It's going to be wild. So there's so much. But listen,
I'll go off about it. To call me bitter that I have family that were killed during the Trail of Tears.
Are you also Native?
Yeah, I am 20. I'm a weird mix. I'm 25%. I'm Scottish, Italian, Lithuanian, and Cherokee. My grandmother on my dad's side, my dad's mom was full-blood Cherokee, born in Oklahoma on the reservation, and her parents were marched from our ancestral lands in northern Georgia, Tennessee, all the way to there. And
explains the ears. Then that's your spirit animal.
Yeah, right. So call me. No. It was so call me a little bitter when I get pissed off about that stuff. But that judicial sovereignty thing really is awful, because that essentially, and it's already bad enough with nobody wants to prosecute white people who go onto reservations and commit crimes because they want them to. They don't give a shit. We're not people. But
if you're the ones getting genocided, you get to bitch about it for a long time.
Right. Yeah. But to legally just basically say we have judicial supremacy no matter what. So random white dude can walk onto a reservation, rape and murder some woman, walk off. Feds won't do a thing.
And whereas before it would have been what? Would it have been
it would have been tried on. The legal system before was that the feds were involved, but the choice to prosecute and the actual way forward was based on whatever the tribal laws and the tribal police wanted.
And would,
so now
would there be a trial? Would it be like an internal trial in the jury?
I think so, yeah. And I think they would just be housed. They would be housed in whatever state they were within in their judicial system. But now it's even if tribal police want to prosecute the state that there is, so like at least with the Cherokee being in like a third of Oklahoma is Cherokee Nation.
Yeah, I got 23andMe says I got 3% Taino, which is like the Cuban ones that got completely wiped out or interbred, mixed, whatever. Yeah.
Cool. But like my dad grew up
not a real thing.
He's from Southern California, but he grew up going back and forth between the reservation and California.
Damn, I didn't know that, dude. I thought you were Eastern European.
It's good a lot.
I am. Also.
Yeah, just like the
I'm multifaceted.
The people that got historically fucked the most.
Do you want to go on about how my family were Jacobites and we had to escape genocide in Scotland to go to Canada?
We're literally not getting into any of this.
Yeah, some of the saddest people distilled down to the essence.
My family has a history of being forcibly overrun by foreign governments, unfortunately. Yeah. So.
Damn, dude.
It's ridiculous.
You got a losing bloodline.
If we're gonna do the oppression Olympics, at least you know where you come from, bro.
Mm-hmm. Not technically white. Not technically white. Yeah, I was gonna say not technically white on any side. Thank God.
Saw that one like a mile away.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been waiting.
But listen, man. I want to be respectful of your time.
No, you don't.
I really appreciate you joining. Yeah, I appreciate you joining our 100th episode, dude.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we'll be back again when we get confused or we want to really. I really like anytime we want to talk about politics or what's going on, especially geopolitics. I'm gonna hit you up and you and Ford Fisher and all the friends of the show, man. I really appreciate you responding to the request to the email, and I that's what life's all about is taking chances and making connections, man. And
you were one of the first like kind of had public persona that we took a flyer on to invite, and you were like, yeah, sure, hell yeah.
Oh, thank you, brother. Appreciate that.
So we appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
We appreciate it, man. Yeah, man. So it's been fun, dude. Tell people where they can find you. Tell people about the show.
All right, yeah. I have a history podcast. If you'd like to listen, it's a lot more like, I don't do racial humor on it. You can find me at Nick Ramos _1 on Twitter, and just go from there.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, folks. 100 down and many more to go. We appreciate you guys being along with us for the journey. We appreciate your patience watching me improve at these skills. I've still got a lot of work to do, but thanks for sticking with us. If you believe we're worthy, give us 5 stars on iTunes. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube, and be sure to check out the Clips channel as well. Signing off. This is Rick. Love you guys. Peace.